What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Tyler, and I just wanted to kind of catch up a little bit. It's been a while, long time no see. But today, I'm just kind of giving an update of what's been going on in my life, as I usually do with these vlogs. But this time, I'm putting a little bit more effort to. I'm putting a little bit more effort into the editing of this. Wanted to talk a little bit about one subject today, just because it's been on my mind, and yeah, let's just get down to it. So lately, my wife has been doing a project of her own little project lately about personality types, and specifically the Myers-Briggs personality types. Now, these types, personality test, you can say, is it can be a little bit controversial at times, depending on who you talk to. There's people who swear by it, and there's people who absolutely abhor it. So, yeah, I'll be one of those people who I don't swear by it, but it's given me a little bit more insight into who I am as a person, and I want to talk about that a little bit. Okay, so let's get down to that. There are 16 types to the Myers-Briggs, and I'm not gonna bore you with that. I'm actually going to lay it out here. You can look at all the different types. If you have no idea what these are, then I actually will have a link somewhere. Let's just say it's here for the sake of this video. And you can go check out this link, and then you can go take the personality test yourself. And as always with those types of personality tests, I just kind of hope that you would answer them honestly. Now, you're not going to get perfect results, and you're not going to even probably get the type that you think you are. Mainly because when people take the test, they kind of choose the ideal form of themselves, or what they believe to be ideal. Nonetheless, you should take the test because it'll at least get your mind in the correct way of thinking to kind of find your way through it. So, and yeah, you guys can go check that out. So once you do, you guys can come back to this video and, play the video again. So my personality type in particular is what they call INTJ. It stands for introverted intuition, thinking, and judging, but it gets a little bit more in depth than that, because with personalities, or at least with the Myers-Briggs personalities, you can't rely so much on the name that it gives you. You actually have to do some of your own research about what that actually means. The way it usually sorts itself is into things called functions. So my first function is introverted intuition. My second function is extroverted thinking. And third function is introverted feeling. And last function is extroverted sensing. I'm not going to break down everything about what those are today, but I at least just wanted to kind of give some understanding about what my personality type is. Now, I'm not going to go in super depth. Maybe I'll do that for another video, but for today, just because I wanted to talk about it, I'll give a little bit of information about INTJs, because I'm sure some of you all kind of have maybe an INTJ friend who has that type of personality. And just so you know, I'm using these terms in the way just for pure understanding. It's not, I don't live by these terms in this way. I don't see people as their personality type. I see them as people. That's kind of the most important part about all of this, is that you don't take it all so seriously to the point that you start labeling people certain personalities and that's who they are, and that's not necessarily the case. INTJs, we'll start with introverted intuition is like the main function of an INTJ. So introverted intuition. What that basically means is that everything that I kind of process, I process internally, whether that be analytics or things that I do on a day-to-day basis. I internalize it in the sense to understand it, logically speaking. Now, introverted intuition isn't necessarily logical in a sense that it needs a lot to kind of counterbalance it, because otherwise you can get lost into what you think is intuition and what you think is right. And kind of you get kind of lost into idealism. So yeah, moving on to extroverted thinking, which is my second function, extroverted thinking. Extroverted thinking is kind of what it sounds like, is like not exactly per se, but it's like thinking out loud. Now, like I said, it's not that's not really the correct definition or anything by any stretch, but it has a lot to do with getting kind of expressing things to the outside world. And usually, because you're expressing things to the outside world, you're using your internal intuition, your introverted intuition, to kind of see how people react to what you say. And that usually pauses itself in kind of always changing the way you see certain things. So if you want to learn more about something, you kind of use your extroverted thinking to kind of put the ideas out there and see what people think and see how people react to what you're saying. And then you use your introverted intuition to more or less understand it. Like, think of it like, I'll come back to introverted intuition for just a short moment here. Think of introverted intuition as like creating a roadmap in your mind about all the different things that you experience in your life. That's the best way I think I can conceptualize that to you. Also, extroverted thinking, back to that, is kind of what I'm doing in this video, is trying to kind of explain what I know about Myers-Briggs and what I know about my personality type. So that's kind of my extroverted thinking side. And then moving on to my third function. Third function is introverted feeling. Now, if you talk to anybody who knows an INTJ, you'll probably hear them say something like INTJs are super cold, and they're very arrogant at times. It's a very common label to an INTJ, is that they either get called arrogant, cold, and emotionless, which is it's actually kind of ironic in a sense, because INTJs tend to actually be very emotional in some ways that most people wouldn't think about. The main difference is that it's not expressed, so you can't really tell what the emotion is. But internally, you can see like an INTJ screaming inside of their mind, like crying. Introverted feeling has a lot to do with, internalizing all the emotions and internalizing everything that you understand about your emotions. So it's almost like you're processing every emotion that you feel internally rather than expressing it externally. If you have an unhealthy version of an INTJ, it's a lot of the times they'll kind of build up all these emotions because they kind of try to suppress it away, and then all of a sudden it just explodes out of nowhere, and people don't really know what to do with that because they're not used to kind of expressing their emotion. Every person has to express in some way. It's not just through these functions. Now, I want to make one thing clear before I move on to the last function, that all these functions all have a counterbalance. Like I say introverted or extroverted for each one. Like, for example, introverted intuition, extroverted thinking. That does not mean that they are 100% those things. And in fact, they're just, they're dominant, secondary, tertiary, and inferior traits. That's how they kind of stack up. It doesn't mean that there is no variant of extroverted intuition that INTJs don't do, or introverted or extroverted thinking or feeling. It's like everything has a counterbalance to itself. So everyone kind of is always on the edge of whatever their personality types are. And in fact, I think there's kind of something that Jordan Peterson talked about, which I've talked about in the past, that he talks about always being on the edge of chaos and order. And that's kind of what all of those functions are, is they're always on the edge of something, and they're always on the edge of what chaos or order, because some people who are very much high in openness, they're always in the idea of, or this is more referring to the big five and not necessarily Myers-Briggs, but people who are high in openness, they're typically on the edge of chaos or on the side of chaos, if I understand it correctly. I could be wrong, so don't quote me or anything. Back to what my functions were. Last function. So the last function is extroverted sensing. Yes. So this one's a little bit more complicated to kind of explain, because to be honest with you, it's complicated because I don't know much about it. Obviously, my bottom function, or the function that I least rely on a day-to-day basis. So actually understanding it's not, my strongest point, because I'm sure if there's a type out there, there's a personality type who their strongest is extroverted sensing, they'll probably know a lot about it, but I don't. The way I've been able to conceptualize it in my brain is basically the type of person who is very, sensual. Somebody who is, they are dealing in the realm of senses and understanding, and that type of thing. So they're always got their finger on, the next, fashion thing, or even kind of developing an idea, or, like something. Like I said, I'm kind of treading in kind of deep waters here because I don't know that much about it. But as much as I can say is that everything dealing with extroverted sensing deals with this realm of the senses. Hence the name. I might make a follow-up video on that just to kind of talk about it a little bit more once I do a little bit more research on my own, because like I said, it's been a while. Almost like 2 years or even 3 years since I did any real hard studying about this. But like I said, through my wife and actually through one of the channels I used to watch back when I was very interested in MBTI, that if you don't know, that's the short acronym MBTI. And that's what I used to do a lot. I used to research a lot about this stuff because it was very interesting and it actually helped me a lot to really understand myself and understand how I act in with other people, and I think it's actually helping me now. I think in the last video that I made, I actually deleted because it was so just down and it was so depressing that it was just like, it's not worth having it up on YouTube or anything like that. But in this case, I think that I'm doing a lot better now than I was in the last, I think about a month ago is when I last posted a video.